our way to go meet up with Tyler MacLeod, buddy of ours from Toronto, living here in New York. Tyler co-produced Sharkwater with Rob Stewart. And now that Rob's gone, Tyler's going to share with me how he's continuing Rob's legacy and what's going on with him. It's going to be great to see him and catch up.
It's good to see you, man. yeah. I'm loving it, man.
Yeah. How long have you been out here?
Been out here not long, actually. Only like 3 months now.
Okay.
Yeah, I just made the move. I mean, as you know, I moved to LA probably 4 or 5 years ago. And then did a stint in Tulum, Mexico.
Yeah.
Joined up with some friends here who were building this hotel in Tulum called Habitas, and just basically packed up from LA and moved to Tulum, and it was great. And then 6 months later, the hotel's up and running really well, and now we want to open up a clubhouse here and kind of expand other locations. So I made the move to New York, and that's nice. New chapter.
Yeah. What's that adjustment like? Because I mean, for me, I love New York, and 2-3 days here for me is.
Check the box.
My fix, I get it. Like, people have asked would I ever consider living in New York, and as much as I love this city and it inspires me in so many ways, I don't know if I lived here if I would love it as much. Like, I find I can come in for 2 or 3 days, get my fix, see my friends, check out the new spots, and then go back to nice, calm Toronto.
I know. I get that, and I mean, quite frankly, that's like a lot of people that I know too. It's not for everyone. For me, I mean, I've been here 3 months, and I feel like I've just barely dipped my toe in the pool of the city. Like, every week I discover a whole new echelon of people. And I mean, but I guess I gotta say, like, one of the things that I love about life, like as I'm sure you share, is just meeting new people.
Sure.
And I was the kid at school who had like my football bag in one side and in one bag, and my theater bag in the other side. I was always in different pockets of people. I was, and I'm so intrigued by the different levels of people and different types of the depth of this city.
Sure.
And so I still feel like I'm a newborn in the city. And it's tough. Like, it can be an intense environment, but I love it. I love it. There's so much yet to be discovered, and so I'm gonna give it a time, see how it goes.
Yeah. You see yourself staying out here for a while?
Until I'm pulled somewhere else, for sure.
So what brought you out here? Is it the Habitas project?
The Habitas project brought me here. Yeah, I joined with my friends who launched it in December of last year, at the beginning of this year, and it just went really well. It was something where they were telling me what they were doing, and I loved it. I've always had a really deep love for bringing people together. It's kind of like what I did when I worked with Branson at Virgin. We were doing these highly curated events on his island, and I really enjoyed bringing people like you who are like just really driven entrepreneurs, open-minded people, bringing them together, and what you can do when you bring people together in really special environments. And that's what they're doing at Habitas. They had been doing these pop-up events for years. Eduardo and Kafir, the founders, they started years ago doing events like I'm sure you're familiar with, and they went really well. They built an amazing following of friends from around the world, and then were able to take over their first piece of land in Tulum and make it a permanent home. And it's just, I really love doing it. And when they said, listen, it's gone really well in Tulum, but let's regroup in New York and plan our first clubhouse here and plan the next few properties. We're looking at an island in the Bahamas. We're looking at we're building another one in Malibu. And
so you invited me to the event in Mexico in Tulum.
Yeah.
And I saw the programming, and it totally up my alley.
Yeah.
With great, healthy, organic food.
Yeah.
Morning yoga sessions.
Yeah.
Obviously, inspiring talks and just amazing network people. So that's the business model moving forward. So when they set up in Bahamas, so the foundation of it is essentially a network or a community founded on health, wellness, spirituality, entrepreneurship. Like, what is the common thread? Like, what is it?
I mean, it's really, and it's tough to wrap your head around it. It's something that we're actually doing now, but what we're calling it is a global home for a global community.
Okay.
So there's people aren't tied to their laptop anymore to do their job. They're not tied to one place. So there's a lot of people traveling and working, a lot more entrepreneurs, a big global community of friends that we have all over the world that want to feel like they have, when they go somewhere, they could just book a room at a hotel, or they could, if they have like a home where they know what it's going to be like, they'd love to stay there, and not only at the hotel, but like in New York, they've got a place they can go and just lay their hat and work, and so it's wellness is a big part of it. Food is a big part of it. Music is a big part of it. Art and creativity,
experiences,
experiences, programming. It's a place where we're gathering people who have like a shared set of values, like you.
Yeah.
Being healthy is important. Being creative is important. Meeting new people, being driven to work hard, be entrepreneurial.
Yeah. Is there a philanthropical element or contribution?
Philanthropy is definitely a significant layer of what we're doing. We have our charitable arm is called Habitat Rise right now. We're sort of toying with what we want to call it. We're trying to get away from traditional words like charity and philanthropy. Like, it's funny, we were doing similar things when I was at Virgin, trying to shake up the whole idea of, like, when you think charity, it's like, oh, I'm gonna just give money to it and it's not gonna be sustainable.
Right.
And so we do have that. We've actually, so what we are really good at, what we love to do is build areas and communities, kind of like socially architect spaces so that they're designed where people want to gather, want to have conversations. It's not like, a lot of our tables are family style tables. Okay. It's very open areas, all the paths lead into certain common areas. So we've partnered with people on the ground in Uganda, and we're actually helping kind of recalibrate one of the largest refugee camps there.
Oh,
wow. And we've got one of our guys there who's working on the ground there and reshaping it, and just trying to take the things that have worked with us when we bring groups of people together so that they can try to have there's more. The refugee problem is one of the biggest in the world. We're getting more and more, especially with global warming. People are being displaced, and it's going to keep happening.
Right.
So that's definitely on our radar. It's helping people, but also helping the planet. Right now, because we're technically a startup, we're not trying to do it all at once, but we've acquired 8 acres of land in Uganda. We're actively working there right now with locals and with sort of projects that are underway to try and help shape the community growth there.
Okay.
It's a big part of what we want to do in the future, and we'll be doing a lot more on the environmental stuff as we grow too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
And we'll be doing events where we get people there. We actually go to Uganda, so it's not just like an event where you come and go to Tulum and have fun and have good food.
No,
but
people actually get their hands.
Yeah, get your hands dirty.
Right into it.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome.
Totally.
And that's part of what I really love about what we do with Artbound. We're not just raising money. We're not just asking for the money. We're asking for money, and we're also taking that money and buying the bricks that we're working with.
I know, right?
I think people are much more supportive and happy to contribute when they know that you're actually going to go in there and do the work and be on the ground, right?
Yeah, and I feel like it's got more stick to it. Like, you can go and you can have a great experience, but when you have like an emotional connection to that time there,
for sure.
Not only an emotional, you might have a great conversation with someone, but like you see like this little boy that you just helped there in that community, like you might have had an amazing week, but that when you gave that kid that pencil,
it stays with you forever.
It's forever, right? You watch the change on that person's face. It's like, I just impacted a life.
Yeah.
And if you do that in cohesion with an event or like and then you do it with other people, I mean, I really think, and you're doing a great job at it too, is like reshaping what is cool. Yeah. Reshaping, because we all want to have a cool car, we all want to have cool clothes, we all want to hang out with the cool kids and go to cool parties and socialize, but like, cool is not always just going to a cool party, and like, now cool is really being reshaped.
Yeah, and I think that kind of touches on fulfillment.
Totally.
A lot of people on their hustle, making their money, trying to get to where they want. Maybe it's that penthouse condo they want, maybe it's that beautiful girlfriend or boyfriend, or maybe it's that car, whatever it is that they think they're going to have, achieve, and bring them the happiness. Often you get there, you have it, it's fun for a couple of months, and then it's like, okay, now what's next?
Yeah.
And you worked so hard and sacrificed so much to get to that point where you can afford that thing, and then you get it, and it's like, now what? And like you said, like touching the lives of a stranger, a young child, and giving them experience that they never would have had anyways. And that moment you'll forever remember. And it's gonna sound cliche, but when you're lying in bed, you're taking your last few breaths, you're not gonna think about, the time you drove off the lot in your Ferrari.
Yeah, I know.
You're not gonna think about, all those bottles of champagne we popped at,
I know.
Baoli. You're gonna think about the lives that you impacted, and that the smile, that young child that you gave the paintbrush to, or whatever.
Exactly.
And that's one of it. For me, when I have friends of mine join on the Artbound trips, and I get to see them show up not knowing what to expect, and then them experience what transpires over the week, and just to see the joy and transformation in them, it's like, for me, it's I get to relive it all over again.
That's it, right?
And it's just amazing to just watch someone have that moment, right?
Yeah.
And I honestly think if more people knew how great it felt to be able to give back, or to be able to play a part in creating this happiness for complete strangers, once you get that, first off, you come back with such a deeper gratitude.
Totally.
For all that you have in North America. But also, you realize that the money we spend on some really insignificant, superficial things can go so far and bring so much happiness that it at least causes you to reprioritize a little bit, you know? And then you also realize if you're in a position where you have the time, the resources, and the ability to take a week off, travel, have an amazing experience, help some people out, do a bit of good in the world, and just enjoy being around like-minded people. If more people knew what that was like, I agree, it would then reshape what people think fulfillment or cool is, right?
I know.
And I know it's something you've done for years. Like, I mean, like when we first met, I mean, we knew each other, but when we first kind of started working together back then, I mean, it was probably going, I don't know, 10 years ago, if not more.
Yeah, at least,
You know, when you were working with Rob at Sharkwater, you know, I didn't know much about it, didn't know Rob at all. I knew you a little bit, and I was just so impressed and blown away with what you guys were doing. You know,
Thank
I
you.
mean,
Thank you.
it's obviously very admirable, the whole mission and movement that you guys created, and it's you know, that's something that's a legacy.
Yeah.
You know, like what you and Rob created and all the change you made in the world, that is legacy. And I don't think a lot of people think about that. Like, why am I here?
Yeah.
What do I want to be remembered for? And what contribution, am I leaving the world in a better place when I move on?
Yeah.
And I know those are big questions, but the truth is a lot of people don't ask themselves those questions until it's kind of towards the end of their life.
Yeah.
You know, but if you think about that and you ask yourself those questions and you actually want to create your own answer to that, it totally reshapes the way you think about yourself and your place in this world, you know? And that's definitely stuff that I've been thinking about and giving thought to, and it just really makes you reevaluate and reprioritize, you know?
Yeah, which is a good thing. I think it helps you recalibrate and do the things that you should be doing.
Yeah, things that are fulfilling.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things that drew me to Rob. I mean, when I met Rob when I was 13, and he, I immediately knew, and he was already on the mission to save sharks. He had this passion for wildlife. We both loved wildlife, and we both loved being outdoors and being adventurous. But Rob was one of the first guys that I met that was like thinking on a higher level. Yeah. Just like not caught up in like the riffraff of like the day-to-day nonsense or the fluff of life. And I just knew that he was going to be doing great things, and that I loved his passion. I was drawn to it. I've always been drawn to people that are driven and passionate and really trying to push the envelope. And I mean, my time working with Rob it made the greatest impact on my life ever. Over and above anything else. I mean, we basically had just dove into this mission head first, and it was, you know, about 5 years and doing Sharkwater. It was funny. I mean, when I first started working with Rob, he didn't even have any money to like pay us. He's like, you know, so I took a job at his parents' company just because I wanted to get close to him. Right. I knew that he had an office at their office, and I knew he would be so busy that he needed help, and I wanted to help him so bad, but we didn't know how to make it happen. So I was like, I took a job at his parents' office, and after a few months, eventually he would start coming to me and be like, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? Yeah. Let's do that. I'd help him after work. And then eventually there was just more and more Sharkwater stuff that was coming down the line, and eventually it was like I was just being paid to do the Sharkwater stuff, and it was like finally we were able to work together. And you know, fast forward all those years, I mean, it was incredible. I mean, like there was at one time it was a 1 hour special, TV special, and then it was a TV series, and then it was a movie, and but I mean, when you work, I mean, I really think it's important to get around people that you want to be like, and Rob was like truly a machine. He was so committed to saving the oceans and saving the earth and saving sharks. I mean, he didn't sleep for the last 3 days before our Toronto Film Festival launch. Yeah. And he just worked straight. He slept at the editing suite and got it done. And touring. We toured all over the world, basically launching the movie, and we were no one. Like no one gave us any help in the beginning. No one wanted to. None of the TV shows wanted to interview us. A lot of the festivals we had to like convince them. But once we started getting into the festivals and started winning them, then momentum started to pick up. We sold at the Toronto Film Festival, and then sold when we went to Cannes. That was the biggest thing. We won an award at Cannes, and we sold to MK2, which is one of the biggest distributor in France. And I'll never forget that. We were on a rooftop, very similar to this, overlooking the harbor of Cannes, and they threw a big party for the films that they had acquired, and I really felt like we had made it at that point. It was like we were in the biggest festival in the world, being hosted by the biggest distributor, and fireworks were going off in the harbor.
Sharkwater, to be honest, like a lot of the content that I'm shooting and the trips that I'm taking were really inspired by what you and Rob created.
Really?
There, yeah.
Thanks, man.
The
That's
thing
awesome.
is, one, it was beautifully shot and very informational.
Yeah.
And you can't not watch that documentary and say, that's really fucked up.
Yeah.
And we need to do something about that.
Yeah.
And, Rob, his intention and his passion and commitment were obviously so natural and pure.
I know.
That you could not watch that and not be enrolled that this man is making a huge difference in the world, and he will, make a huge difference, and he did. From what I understand, that movie helped put an end to shark finning in over 100 countries. Yeah,
it made a real impact. It helped change government policy around ocean conservation. Certain countries have instigated new rules around shark protection, and I mean it's an ongoing battle because there's just so much pressure from, companies that make money off shark fins, but it made a real impact, and it also spurred other charities to get started. It's created a whole movement of young people to get engaged in ocean conservation and shark. It's helped change how we see sharks and help sort of debunk that myth of sharks being monsters. And I mean, I will forever. I'm different because of Rob being in my life, and I think he helped impact a lot of people. And I mean, it's still sort of surreal to think of that he's not here anymore. Yeah. But it was, even those 3 days when we were looking for him, that 3 days was like no 3 days I've ever had in my whole life. Yeah. That still is with me. I'm still processing how it all went down and how it affected me, because I lived in those 3 days like I've never lived before, and it's something I'm trying to really make sure that I drill into the way that I am, and it's not easy. Yeah. Definitely. Huge loss and impact. I mean, it's a huge loss for the planet. Yeah. And obviously for you and Rob's family and everybody who's ever known Rob. I mean, it's tragic, and they say everything in life happens for a reason, and obviously this is a tough one to make sense of. But the reality is just because Rob's gone doesn't mean his legacy won't live on, right? Absolutely.
So what's happening with that? I know Sharkwater 2 is coming out. Yeah,
I mean, it's in the works right now. There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of interested groups. I mean, there's a lot of really big influential people that were in our life and that were supporting our projects, and they've all sort of come to the surface to try and get involved and help and want to. And it's tricky because there's now that Rob has passed, this story has become. It's this big story, and not only about sharks, but about Rob's life and about what it means to live with passion, what it means to stand for something, to take a stand for something. And so the story is starting to evolve, and it's definitely going to happen. And there's some really exciting people that are in the works, big film producers and actors and activists that right now they're in talks. Nothing is solidified, but the film is definitely going to launch, and it'll be in a much bigger way now that Rob's passed, because the story has been, when someone dies, it's dramatic, and people listen. Yeah. I mean, when it's a true story about someone who's passed away for fighting for a cause, it's just a whole other level. It's not, and so we're, they're trying to figure out how best to tell that story, make it be a part of it, and because people want to try and not only tell the story of sharks, but tell the story of the life that Rob led and why he did that, and why he, why he was the way that he was,
Sure.
and you know, and
what he stood for and his commitment
Yeah.
and his belief in
exactly.
you know, and like yeah. Some people would say one man's crazy to think that he could change the world, you know, but
Yeah.
the reality is he had so much support. He had so many people that believed in him and still believe in him. And, you know, he just created a movement that's so important to our planet. And, you know, and more
And
people
it's-
need to
and-
realize the connection between
Yeah.
sharks, our oceans, and our own, you know, survival.
And like one of my favorite quotes was from like the Steve Jobs, like one of the original ads that Steve Jobs put out from Apple,
Yeah.
where he's like, you know, what was the saying? The ones who believe
crazy
they're
ones.
crazy, the ones who think they're crazy enough to change the world are the ones that actually do.
Yeah.
And like even if you're so crazy that you think you're gonna just like you're gonna make this huge goal. What if you even just make halfway?
Yeah.
But if the goal is huge and you get halfway, you're still achieving something great.
Absolutely.
But it's like people who do amazing things, people think they're crazy because most people want to do what's normal.
Yeah.
And like I remember we had no money for the music for Sharkwater, and I was like, oh, okay, well, let's just try and find some low-level music producers. And Rob's like, screw that. Let's go for like the biggest ones that we can get. Let's just send them a movie and write them a letter pleading, saying we need to save sharks, we need to save the oceans. Like, that's just like it just takes your paradigm into it. Like, don't think small. Like, you know, it's. But that's the paradigm. I'm always fascinated by people who have that bigger paradigm naturally versus having to like be reminded of it. And I don't always have it naturally, but that's why I surround myself with people who have that.
Yeah.
You know?
And maybe, you know, maybe all the time Rob spent in the ocean. Like, Rob was just a different person. Like, he thought different. He had a different perspective on the world. He had a very different energy to him. You know,
I know.
He was aloof yet present, yet engaged and loving at the same time.
I know.
Like,
it's so hard to read him sometimes.
Like, floating, but you know, he was always big hug, big smile.
Yeah.
You know, I remember I saw you guys at Soho House last year.
Yeah.
And, you know, I hadn't seen him in years, and, you know,
big
this
hug.
big hug. And, and, you know, and maybe just him growing up in that space and the environment and spending most of his life under the ocean in the water. Maybe, you know, he just didn't see the world or the boundaries that we see and limit ourselves by, you know?
Yeah, I remember when we were in school, he went to Africa and he did so he studied marine biology and zoology, and then he went and studied it for a year in Kenya.
Yeah.
When he came back from that, he was very changed. It really impacted him, and because I think he saw the reality of how people live. Like, it's not all like this, and he got really connected with wildlife. And I remember him saying, like, you know, when I get underwater, you know, it's crazy up here on land, but when you go underwater, everything is calm. Everything is like everything is how it should be. There's no excess. So I think he really climatizes with the way the natural world is. He sees that, like, you should just be a little more calm. Like, you don't have to plug into the electrical grid board of being always stressed out. And he always had this sort of chilled out, melodical way about him that was just like almost like reptilian. And but it was funny. Like, he always, you know, he knew what was right and what was wrong sometimes, and he really tried to practice those things, like eating better, eating more responsibly, eating locally, eating healthier, and practicing. But, you know, we'd always be hanging out, and we would see him, like, looking at us doing certain things that weren't the best for the planet. Like, maybe we're eating from a non-sustainable fishery or something, but, like, he never judged. He never, you know, called people out. He just sat there quietly and had this, you know, you just knew. But yeah, there's definitely, you know, something special about him. We're lucky that he's a content creator like what you're doing, and that content will always live on.
Yeah, and, you know, as I said before, you know, what Rob created, the movement, and just the knowledge and information he shared, I mean, really is what's inspired me to discover what are some of the causes, concerns, what are some of the issues that we're dealing with on the planet, and how can I learn more about that? How can I share information that I think is necessary for people to know and understand? Because if anybody sees Sharkwater, they're going to learn a lot about what's happening that they were completely unaware of. You know, and whether it be plastic in the ocean, whether it be climate change, global warming, whether it be clean water in Africa, whether it be our broken education system. There's so many issues, there's so many situations happening on our planet right now that 99% of the population is completely unaware of. You know, and me included, you know, there's a lot of stuff that I don't know about. So if I hear about something that I think should be public knowledge or more people should know about, you know, I'll hop on a plane, I'll go there, I'll speak to people that's being impacted by, and and showcase that. And I want to, because I'm discovering, I'm learning, and I'm sharing, and hopefully that can as well, create the motivation for people to want to take action and stop some.
I'm motivated by yourself all the time. Yeah. You're one of my favorite people, and I know I'm not just saying that, dude. Like, I'm like legit. Like, I've been very inspired by just how the entrepreneur that you are, and how you just opened up these places, then moved into like photography and started doing philanthropy and like taking photos of it and then sharing it and like doing things like Landmark, doing things like where you're just, doesn't matter what you're doing, you're just really interested in growing yourself, expanding yourself, getting outside your bubble, and that's honestly, that's the true nature of an entrepreneur. Yeah. You can never sit still. You're always evolving, always growing. Yeah. And it's one of the reasons why I love being in when I moved to the States, and I just was like, oh my God, there's just a lot more going on, and the entrepreneurial drive in this country is like incredible. There's a tidal wave of it, and it's in Toronto as well. I just there's not everyone is vocal about it. Not everyone like shares it, and you do inspire people, through what you do.
I appreciate that, and this. As we talked before, people on their hustle, on their grind to have that lifestyle, have those materialistic items. I was that guy for many, many years, and business has its ups and downs, and I've experienced some really great moments and been fortunate in many ways. But I would also say that with the ups and downs of business, when things are going well, you also start to reevaluate and ask yourself what's really important.
Yep.
And through Landmark or through Archangel Academy or through meeting people like yourself and Rob, people who are just doing amazing things in this world, I now look at individuals like yourself, and I had an admiration and respect for what certain people are doing, and I want to be like them. I want to do that. I want to stand for something and create something that, one, is impacting people in a very positive way, but also creating legacy, right? So, and like you said, the car is great to have, but the car will come and go, and one day you won't be able to afford it, or one day,
it'll die or something.
But knowing that, the work that I'm doing through Landmark or any of this content, the people I'm meeting, the stuff that I'm sharing, can have such a positive impact on people's lives. Like that's stuff for me that makes me feel way, way more fulfilled and happy than having that really nice sports car that I used to own. That I don't own anymore, but was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So 2017, it's been
craziest year yet.
A hard year for sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, losing Rob, childhood friend, best friend, that's incredibly tough.
Yeah.
And your sister.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine what that must feel like, what you had to deal with. Yet, you're still really positive. You're still doing your thing. You're out here. You're creating this new company, creating new life in New York.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are people who, they're going through their own thing, but nowhere nearly to the degree and the intensity of what you've gone through. Like, how have you managed to just stay positive, stay happy, keep going?
I was really lucky that, I think that I owe a lot to my parents, because they just made me the kind of person that I am. I don't know how it happened, but I have a default positive outlook. I'm just like, maybe to a fault, because as you grow up, sometimes you get burned if you're too soft and too nice, especially moving to a place like New York or moving to the States where it's a quicker pace. I've been nipped in the butt sometimes with my positive outlook, and it's like, but it's just how I am. I can't help it. With my sister and with Rob, it was different in a way that, like, with Rob lives in this incredible life where he is at risk sometimes, and all of us always knew that there could be some potential thing that could happen to him. I didn't even know he was on this particular dive at that time, but Rob lives that life where he puts himself in risky situations sometimes. But you never think that it's really going to happen, that anything's bad is really going to happen. I've been in risky situations with him sometimes, and you just like measure it, how comfortable you are, and with Rob, it was like immediate. When I realized that he was missing, I called his dad, and it was like, as soon as I found out he was real, I went into like Navy SEAL mode. It was like there was no like I cried for a minute and then I was like have to find him, and it was like no time for crying, no time for bullshit. Like I can cry later if I'm gonna cry, but like right now Rob could be floating at the surface. Every single second counts, and he's like a highly trained dive master. I knew that he was. I mean, I knew his ability to last was there, but I also knew that every second counted. So I just dove into like rescue mission mode, and I didn't know what that meant. I was just like, how can I figure this out? And fortunately, maybe not everyone would have the balls to call the person's parents, but they're like second parents to me. So I just called them, was like, who's looking for them? Yeah. They told me the Coast Guard. I got the Coast Guard's number. I drilled down. Like, I really like when Rob and I were filming. You know, you never know what you're going to get, so you just always have to be in like central command mode. So you're always just overcoming the next challenge on the road. And so I just switched into like that mode only to save Rob, and it was just problem solving. And the first problem I wanted to figure out was what's the most efficient way to find someone who's floating at the surface. So I asked the Coast Guard that, and anyways, I mean, it was the Rob thing was a whole like rescue mission for 3 days, and I mean I can explain it was there's a lot of ups and downs through that, and then Rob, you know, and then I came home and Rob's funeral was there, and then there was a whole like you know preparing on how we were gonna, what I wanted to say. It was very emotional, like how I was gonna. It was just important to me to say some things to the world about what Rob taught me and how Rob impacted me, and then it wasn't long after that Heather passed away, and it was so I kind of like. I don't even know that I've fully like finished processing what happened with Rob, but I was thrown right into this thing with Heather, and I mean, the depth of sadness and dealing with it all, I think, is still something I'll deal with for the rest of my life, and it's still there. But you know, I've sat in darkness through this process, through this time, and I realized that sitting in sadness only and sitting in the darkness, it's important to do, but it's not gonna get you where you want to be in life. Like there's always gonna be sad things, and I will always, I think, be processing Heather's death and Rob's death. But I just know, like I just wake up in the morning and I just know that you have to take one step and put it one foot in front of the other. You have to just do your best every day, and your best is not sitting there wallowing and being in darkness and being in sadness. Like, you're reminded how precious life is, and because of that, I could just step outside and be hit by a car today after this interview, and you know, I could be very sad, and then I could step outside and I could die. I don't think I'm done processing. I think it's just going to be a thing that I'm always doing, and when you're busy with work, I'm very lucky that I love who I work with. I love my friends that I'm working with, and I love what we're creating. Like what you're doing with this, you get excited, right? Yeah. You get excited to get out of bed, and so I feel drawn to create something good. But then when it's quiet and the bustle isn't happening, then it really resonates with me, and it gets dark, and I still cry, and I still get sad. Sometimes I'm sitting on the subway, sometimes I'm doing yoga, and I just like start crying, or it just like hits me. And for a few times I would like stop it and be like, oh, I'm working right now, I have to just like. But then other times I'll like step away and I'll just process it, and I'll just let it go through me. I'll talk to people, I'll call family, I don't think there's any real rhyme or reason to how I process it. It's a reality. And I mean, you know.
You've been able to deal with this and process it on your own, and obviously you have the support of loved ones around you. Not everybody has the same perspective or resources that you do.
Yeah.
And for someone who has gone through or is dealing with what you have had to, what would you tell them? What advice, what guidance would you give them in their dark moments? Like, what was it that just helped you like make it through and just stay positive? Because to be able to stay positive and just be that way is an amazing thing, but not everybody has that ability. Like, how can someone find that?
Honestly,
that happiness.
The most important thing, because I'm not always. There's certain traits that I wish that I had more of, and So like if someone's dealing with something difficult and like they want to be happier but they're not able to get there, surround yourself with people who are happier. And not in a fake way. Like find people who are genuinely positive people. Not people who are happy because they've got a sweet like table at the club and they're popping champagne, but like people who are genuinely happy. Yeah. And that could be like the old 80-year-old woman that you're sitting next to at the bench. It could be anyone who's genuine and real, but like surround yourself with good people.
Positive energy.
Yeah, and if your friends are not that, then switch friends.
Yeah.
Like I remember hearing, I don't know if it's true or not, but like the 5 people you spend the most time with are probably going to be how you shape your life. It'll probably be what your life is like. And it's helped me a lot. And it's not that I have like my 5 awesome positive friends that I hang out with all the time, but in general, like when I meet someone who's that energy, I like chase them. I'm like, dude, like let's hang out. Like you're awesome, and I'll tell them like you're an amazing person. Like I'll tell you like you really inspire me. Like like what you've done in Toronto, and like it makes me love Toronto more, and I want to be around that kind of thing. So when you're in those times of darkness, well, one, get around some people who can make you feel better. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. Go to a diner and sit there and have a milkshake with them, and just like, because they're the kind of people who are gonna be like, yeah, man, it sucks. Like, let's just like let's drink. Some people are naturally more positive, a little more, or they just be there and they genuinely listen to you. Yeah. The other thing is to talk about it, and I'm not good at that. I learned through my biggest relationship that I had in life, with the most amazing woman I've ever known, with Jade. She taught me in those 5 years, I learned to communicate more. I think it's a difficult thing that men struggle with a lot. Sure. I'm still working on it.
Me too.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Right?
It's fear of looking bad.
Totally.
You don't want to be vulnerable. You don't want to open up.
It's ego. Gets in our way. And I think men really struggle with it. I think women are way more emotionally intelligent and more communicative. But you've got to talk about it. I don't talk about these things that I went through with Rob and my sister enough. I'm a little bit afraid of like getting the counseling and like stepping up to the plate, looking at myself in the mirror. I'm talking to certain people, but like you've got to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Don't sit in the darkness. Talk about it, even if it's with your friends. I guarantee everyone has someone in their life that they can get to, and if it's and that's something that you are to people. Like when you share, people.
For sure, when you share, you're open and vulnerable. You create that space for someone else to also share what matters to them, and for them to also take the chance at looking bad.
Totally.
And the one thing that I've realized over the last few months, just with becoming more vulnerable and open, is I hold back from saying what I want because I don't want to look bad, but it's actually the complete opposite, because the person who's listening to me admires and respects the fact that I'm being that open, and then they're open, and then we have a real conversation about what's going on in our lives, and that fear of looking bad is so in my head that now that I know the impact and the positivity that could come out of looking bad and being vulnerable, I'm obligated. Like, totally. And it's just, I would be selfish to not be able to just put it out there.
Yeah.
If I share something really deep and personal with someone, they think I look bad, and they they're gonna not like me or respect me as much because of it, then hey, it is what it is.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
maybe that friendship wasn't worth holding on to, like you said, with negative people, right? But I mean, the reason why I asked you to share how it is that you've been able to keep it together and how it is that you're able to stay positive and still go to work, move cities, create a new life, and do all that you're doing is because there are people in this world who are dealing with death, lost ones, sickness, issues less and more significant, and they're in a very dark place all the time. You know? So I think you sharing your story and just sharing how you get through it and even the dark moments that you deal with, I think sharing that story will help a lot of people find the happiness or find the optimism and positivity that you've had, So I would encourage you to,
share
take that on.
Really?
Take that on. Yeah.
Thank you.
I would encourage you.
I've thought about it. I mean, I've thought about it. Sometimes I feel like I don't want to like look like I'm someone who's trying to like just tell a story to get attention, but I guess it's these are unique.
Yeah, people need to hear what you've been through. People need to know. You need to also.
Yeah, it helps me process it.
Absolutely.
It helps me. It does. When I explain it, it does help me process it.
In helping them, you're also helping yourself,
100%.
and it's almost like self-therapy to just get it off your chest,
I know.
And if you haven't fully processed or haven't really gotten closure on that, and you may never will. It's obviously something so significant. It's rocked your world, but in sharing and opening up and allowing people to contribute to you, you are contributing to them in such a big way, you know. So I would say that, you know, last thing you have to worry about is looking bad. I mean, the fact that you're here, you're smiling, you're alive, you're creating a new business and life for yourself in New York, that is admirable and far more than a lot of people would take on after dealing with so much. So, you know, it's
Thanks for saying that. It means a lot.
Yeah.
You're right. It's funny how it's like you can overthink things so much, but it's like as soon as you start to think about it, that's where you should stop.
Yeah.
Like if you feel like you want to do something, just do it.
Trust your gut.
Just trust your gut. The gut is always right.
And your intentions are pure. Like your intentions are from a good place. With you sharing your story, you are going to inspire and help other people deal with what they're going through. And that is such a great gift. That's such a great contribution. And you are turning something that's quite tragic and unfortunate into a positive scenario. Yeah, what happened, and no one can change that. But how it affects you and how you can share that experience with others to save them from dealing with the darkness.
Yeah.
Some people, the darkness takes them over.
I know.
You know,
I know.
And then that could lead to even more tragic.
That's what happened to my sister.
Right? Yeah.
You know, she's, you know, and it's what happened to Heather has made me hyper aware of mental illness and how it can start. I mean, with Heather, it started from just like sports injuries, concussions.
Yeah.
And, you know, one thing led to another. There's a downward spiral of dealing with the pain, dealing with the headaches, having pain medications, seeing different doctors, bouncing around to different people to kind of, and she just fell into it. She was dealing with depression, with mental illness, and she was the most like lit up people I knew. She was like, I love being around her, but it's so common. It's incredible how many people have this darkness. I mean, I feel it. I feel it sometimes. Yeah. And I remember when I was in grade school, my parents killed themselves to try and put me into private school. Like they just struggled so hard to make it happen, and they did. I remember feeling so intimidated by the level of like the pace of it all, and just sitting there like thinking how everyone else is smarter than me, and you know, you get in your head. But it's like one of the things that like landmarks, you know, teach you. These things teach you that like to get out of your head.
Yeah, totally.
Just get out of your head.
Yeah.
Your head is not right. Your head is like something. It's a different thing. It's not you. It's but a lot of people, their lives are run by what's going on in here.
Totally.
And it's not from here. And once you lead from here, it's like. But you're right. Just sharing stories, because I mean, people look at, you know, they'll look at your life, they'll look at you in your Porsche and you with your fancy places and me doing these things, but like it's a friggin' struggle, man.
Absolutely.
Like I'm living in a shoebox in New York trying to, you know, make it work, but I you know, there's enough. I have a reason to be here, and I love it, but as long as you just figure out what it is that you want to do, and people just attach themselves to that purpose, you're driven by a higher, you're woken up every day, pulled out of that darkness because you are able to follow that purpose. But you're right, sharing is the most important thing, I think, and it's probably the most important thing that humans have ever done since the beginning of time, is tell stories.
Absolutely.
You know?
And your sharing and the information and the experience that you've been through, I think, can really be powerful for people dealing with similar situations, and you can be that source of inspiration for them, you know, and that's a very powerful and positive place to be, when you can accept what happened, leave it in the past, and then be that source of inspiration for people who may not be able to process and deal with things in the same way you can, you know. And I think you have a story to tell. I think it's something that you need to take on and just share it, man, because the reality is you can really impact and save lives by you know, just sharing who you are and what you've been through. And
it's true. No, I appreciate that, man. I will. I'll do that.
I encourage you to do that, and I
will
support you.
Thank you.
Doing that, however,
I appreciate it.
And that's why, you know, this interview and what we're shooting today, you know, just sharing that with people, and they're going to hear your story and understand, you know, that life can be different. You can choose your path. No matter what you've been through, who you've lost, what's going on, you can choose to be happy.
I learned something really important in those 3 days, and it's something that I've never fully experienced, but I've always tried to, and it's you know, really speaks to the idea of manifesting. And it's basically, in those 3 days, there was nothing other than one thing that I had on my mind, and it was saving Rob. my biggest why, what I had to manifest was finding Rob. My why was finding Rob. Why am I doing every single decision that I make now, and now, and now, is all based on one question. And it's funny, because in those 3 days, we raised all this money. We were raising like 50 grand a day. We had raised like 200 grand.
We rallied an army.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Navy, yeah.
It was like an army. We had like, granted, you can do a ton with social media and video and a phone these days, and I was lucky to have an amazing community of people all over the world, yourself included, who just spread the message and their networks, and it was, 250,000 views and all these people, but it was all because I was so focused, and every single decision, like even when I went to order food, I stopped and I was like, can someone else go get me food? Like, I don't want to do anything else right now. And I went to pack my bag to go on a plane to go to Florida, where it makes sense to be where Rob is. But then I was like, well, wait a minute, I'm going to waste time packing my bag. I'm going to waste time in the taxi. I'm going to waste time waiting at the airport. I'm going to have dead time when I can't have Wi-Fi when I'm flying. And I was like, in those 6 dead hours, I could be finding Rob, or Rob could be gone. So I can't do that. So I realized that if you get crazy with what your expectations are of yourself, crazy focused on one thing, if I could live my life with one focus, the way that I lived those 3 days, what you could achieve is astronomical. And since then I've often thought, how can I get focused more? And it's every day I'm like, oh, okay, I'm after work, I'm gonna go to the gym, and but I remember in those 3 days, there was no gym, there was no chatting. I would talk to my friends, and they'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'd be like, dude, I'm looking right now, can you help me do this? Can you do this on my Facebook page? Can you do that? If you can't, love you, gotta talk to you later. There was no soft talking, there was no my friends were all like, I've never felt you that way. I've never talked to you that way, you've never talked to me that way. And you don't have to go to that extreme, but if you can truly get focused and truly trim the fat, if you could live that way, it's amazing what you can achieve. Apply it to anything you want. Apply it to your health, apply it to your work, apply it to your family, but get focused, trim the fat, and really zero in on it. And I've struggled since then to do that. There's all kinds of, especially in New York, there's all kinds of distractions, but I know now what it really means to focus on something. And granted, it was the worst thing I could ever imagine focusing on, but it was a reality, and Rob still passed away, but I know that I at least did everything humanly possible that I could do in those 3 days to find him. And it's funny, I catch myself since then, if I'm trying to do something, I'm like, oh, that didn't work out, but did I really give it my best shot? And I realized, now not everyone might have a basis to compare what I went through with Rob, but I think we really know if we give it our best shot. And I often cheat myself, and it was just a big lesson to think that you can really manifest anything. I never could have imagined that we could have mounted this whole global search with people helping all over the world, raising all this money. That's a crazy thing to me that we could have done that in 3 days, but it was possible. And because I acted in an extraordinary way.
Sure. The impact of your actions and the mission, the goal that you were up to was larger than life. It was larger than anything else going on in your life, and you just wanted it that bad. And I agree, if people gave their word and commitment to things that really mattered to them, or things that mattered to the planet, and they made that their sole focus and cut out the distractions, they would definitely achieve way more. But the thing is,
it's hard though, isn't it?
It's absolutely very hard.
The realities that set in when you start growing up, and you have kids, a wife, a husband, a mortgage, a serious job. I think especially when you have kids, and when all of a sudden your life is not the most important thing in your life, you have other living humans that you care for, perhaps as much or more than yourself. Now, I'm not in that boat yet, but I certainly have a lot of friends who are, as I'm sure you do, and it's a paradigm shift. And I think that, not that it's a bad thing, I think it's an amazing thing, and I can't wait to get to that phase, hopefully if I do one day, but I do know that it's important to, even though you have all those pressures, don't forget about yourself. Don't forget about making your life the best that it can be. And it might be harder when you have kids, it might be harder when you have a mortgage or a job, but it's still doable. And it's important to be able to say no. I remember when one of the biggest things that Rob taught me when we'd be on the road filming Sharkwater, our phone bills were retarded. They were just through the roof. And Rob, we'd be in the car for hours and hours driving between towns, between cities to market, go to radio shows, and he'd hear me on the phone like negotiating with Rogers, trying to like get my cell phone down, and I'd hang up, and he's like, Ty, you've really got to get tougher. Yeah. And I was like, you're right. These cell phone, these bills are crazy. And I remember like really negotiating with film festivals, negotiating with radio stations. Like you gotta get a tough skin as you get older to say no, take a stand, because it's important to actually get where you want to get. And when we were looking for Rob, I remember being on the phone with the Coast Guard, and they were like, oh, I'm sorry, we can't do anything else. We've got 2 planes in the sky, that's all we can do. And I remember thinking like, it's not acceptable. How hard am I going to push here? Yeah. And it's just like,
sometimes you got to get unreasonable.
Really unreasonable.
Not accept the reasons people are getting you, and just be, cause and matter, think outside the box, and use all your resources you can, just to look at it from a whole different way.
And you almost have to expect that most people are kind of not going to be where you want to be. Like most people, if you're really trying to do something great, what you're doing is probably going to be a lot different, and expect a lot of pushback. Yeah. So it's important to remember that, because it's easier to be in the bleachers than on the court.
You got a story to tell. I think you need to definitely take it on and share it. I think in sharing it, it's definitely going to benefit you a great deal, and and benefit a lot of other people significantly. And if I can help in any way, I'm happy we got a chance to talk, and I appreciate you just opening up and sharing with me. Yeah. And it's we haven't really had a chance to sit down and talk about everything since I saw you at Rob's funeral. So
by the way, it really meant a lot that you came.
Yeah.
It's like people, we don't see each other a lot, like a lot of people, but it really meant a lot.
Yeah.
And I hear you. Yeah. I hear you, because I don't know what my gifts are, but I do know that I love communicating, and I was a host for a couple of years. I really enjoyed doing it, and it's a rewarding thing when you can get those out.
Yeah.
But I hear you.
Yeah, and look, I
appreciate your support.
Rob's gone, your sister's gone, but you can put a positive message out there and help a lot of people. And even though I'm in Toronto, I'm a phone call or a quick flight away. So if there's anything I could ever do to help, and support, and for being a part of this, interview, just with sharing that with people and just bring more awareness and letting people know, like, look, you're not alone. You're going through a dark time. There's people to talk to, So,
totally.
I appreciate you opening up and sharing with me, and however I can help,
Absolutely.
I'm here for you, buddy.
I really appreciate that. It means a lot.
No, of course.
It really means a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing what you're going to create. You got this life in New York. You got this new project, and I know whatever you do next is going to be awesome. And with some of the stuff that I got coming up as well, I'm going to let you know, because there's some different initiatives that I want to take on and be a part of. And
I want to get you out to our events. And like a lot of what you're doing with personal development and positive thinking, healthy thinking, and philanthropy. It's all in the fold of what we're doing.
Sure. Well, if I can help support that and spread the message on that, man, let me know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
Absolutely.
My man.
Awesome,
Thank you.
Brother.
Appreciate it.
Well, please. It was a pleasure. I loved it.